I'm Carey Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show Barney and Friends. Now my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carey Stinson, and this is Purple Roads. Welcome to Purple Roads. My name is Carey Stinson, and as always, I'm thrilled you're here. I think this is a show that I've been nervous about for a long time because you guys have heard me talk about the fact that I wasn't really a dancer in any shape or form when they asked me if I could dance, and I said, of course I can dance. And then I had my sweet mother who helped me with choreography. The choreographers from Barney were so important in my life because I really wasn't. And they helped me a lot. And so I'm so excited. We're going to have Christine Lanning. You love these Barney people, and this is one of my favorites. She's on this week. Christine, how are you?
Hey, it's so nice to see you.
I know, this is so much fun. And, you know, we got to see each other in person not too long ago, the little Barney reunion, which was awesome.
It was fantastic. It's great to see everyone. They have gotten a little bit smaller than in the past, but we all get busy and we all have lives, so that's to be expected. But just to be able to see everybody and talk to them and see what they're doing and what they're up to, it's hard to believe that it's been as long as it has, but it feels like it hasn't been that long at the same time.
Yeah, I think you were the one that was actually causing that trouble because you were telling us about your child that was born during the Barney days and who is now in college. So I think that made everyone wince a little bit.
Both of my children were born during the Barney days. Yes. And my youngest just turned 16. So yeah, I wanted everyone to feel as old as I did.
Well, thank you for that. You can see I've got a little gray here in my beard. I thought I'd show that out today. Well, this is so much fun. You know, everyone's going to really enjoy this because, yes, you were a choreographer on the show. And, you know, as we were talking about this, getting ready, you did a lot more. You know, I've always known you as an actor. I actually got to see you in a lot of your productions during the Barney days. I've got a daughter at North Texas. And when we were taking her in and we went through downtown, I was like, oh, my God, I saw Christine Lanning at that theater. So it's really cool that it all comes full circle. And we're going to talk about all of it this week.
All of it?
Well, no, most of it. So, you know, we always kind of get started this way. And I love about this show is I learn each week. And I really don't know your beginning of how you got into the arts, I guess is the best way to say this. So was this from a young age that you always wanted to do this, or where did this come from?
So I lived in Oklahoma when I was young, and I started out in gymnastics, and I was a twirler, if anybody even knows what that is anymore. But actually, I started in theater at the age of 10. I was Amaryllis in The Music Man. Wow. And my aunt worked with a local community theater. And it's kind of my introduction to I don't know, maybe I was better than the other girl, and maybe it was because I knew somebody there, but it came down between me and this girl who was Little Miss Oklahoma. So I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have a chance. But she ended up playing the mayor's daughter, Gracie Shin, and we became best friends. And her mom used to roll my hair every day before the performance because we had to have little ringlets and everything, and we would spend the night at shows. So it was really great. I went on to do tons of theater there. I was part of their first teen theater board. I learned everything about theater starting out there because the teens got to be involved and do their own shows and different things like that. So that was really great. And then when I got into middle school and high school, I started really learning about it, and then in college and everything. So I guess I've kind of had a passion for performing my whole life. I'm not really sure why. My dad was kind of extroverted. My mother is not at all. So it's really foreign to her. But I have not left the stage really. After I graduated, I got married really early on. And so there was a little period of time where I didn't do any theater, but he actually started traveling and I didn't like being alone, and I got right back into theater and I've not looked back since then. So how I got involved in Barney, however.
Well, we're gonna get into that.
Okay.
But before we get into that, were you also, where did the dance come from? Did you
Well,
just
I
pick
started
up?
taking, yeah, I started taking dance early on. After I was actually a late dancer because lots of girls start when they're like 4 or whatever. And I didn't, like I said, I kind of did gymnastics and then twirling. But after my little bout in music band, I was like, oh, I love dancing. And so I actually started dancing then. And then I got moved up into classes of girls who had been doing it for a long time. And it was only like 2 years later, and I started on point. That's toe shoes, for those of you who don't know, and for ballet and everything. So that's how I came late to dance, but I loved it so much. And actually, in theater, they call people triple threats if you're an actor, dancer, singer, or whatever. And so people in the theater world will say, I am a singer who moves, or I am an actor who moves or sings or whatever. And you put yourself in these categories. So I would put myself as an actor, dancer, singer.
Okay.
Acting is my strongest point, but I love dance. So
Well, I love it too. I just wasn't very good at
that
it.
is not true.
Okay, I needed a little help to show me. Once I got that, I was pretty good. But I think the technical part, and I think that's the part I appreciated so much from everyone. So let's get into that part. How did you find out about Barney? How did Barney come into your life?
So Shelley Aubrey
Which
was,
we've had Shelly. She was on Purple Tails.
oh,
She
good,
was on
good.
Purple Tails. So
She I'm sure she talked about the theater world as well.
yes.
And she called me up and she said, there's a job opening that I think that you would be perfect for. I want you to apply. And I was like, okay. I was working in the corporate world. I was a purchasing agent. I did theater at night, and I was young, fresh out of college pretty much. And I've decided I want to be an actress. I had just got brand new headshots and my resume filled out, and I was getting ready to send them out to agents and everything. And she calls, and I was like, I mean, I really want to do this, but I can't turn this down. This sounds awesome. And so I went and I applied, and they interviewed me, and I happened to be choreographing a children's show at the time called How to Eat Like a Child. And so I had taken in footage of what I had done there, and I didn't know anything about the film and TV. I totally came from the theater side or the corporate side. And so I was like wearing a silk outfit, and I had done research on Barney, and I had my
Did
tape
you
and
really know much
everything.
about Barney at that point?
No, because I was pre-Barney, like
Okay.
growing up.
Right.
And then I didn't have any kids. So, I mean, I had heard of Barney, but I didn't really know. So I'd done a lot of research about Barney and everything like that. And I thought the interview went pretty well. And Shelley called me and she's like, so, and I was like, yeah. She goes, well, they just feel like maybe you're, how do I say this? Too polished. And I was like, what? I I didn't really understand what that meant. And like I said, I didn't really know that much about TV and film. And well, they're really laid back. It's a really laid back industry. Everybody's like, sweatshirts and their sets. You start at like 5:30 in the morning, and so it's very different from the corporate world, which I didn't know anything about. But they had given me a song to choreograph some kids to. I had to find the kids and everything, and then they were going to come see it. Linda Houston is actually who came to see it. So the funny thing is, when she came to see what I had done with the choreography, I happened to be in a theater show at the time. I want to say it might have been Kiss Me Kate or something like that. It was at the Irving Arts Center. And so when she came to see me with the kids that I had choreographed, I had my hair in rollers. I had zero makeup on. I was in sweats because I was getting ready. We had dress rehearsal. I was getting ready to do a show. And so it was the complete opposite of how I'd gone in, and I, did the thing, and I got the job. So it was really great. It was a
Like, this is the look that we were looking
yeah,
at.
you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, you're totally fit in. You're fine.
Yeah, well, it is crazy because we talked about this, and I've talked about this. This show being in Texas and the way it was done was very different, right? I was not an actor, was not a dancer. I was a musician. I'd never been in a costume before, but they were looking for specific things, right? People that cared and all of the, had the heart for this and all of those things. And I think that's interesting because it's very different than if you were casting this in New York or LA, right? You'd have these puppeteers and these things. So I think it really is interesting to hear the process. So now you coming from the theater background and you start working with Barney, are your eyes big? I mean, are you like, what is this? Or wow, or?
Yeah. So when I first came in, you guys were already at Marsh.
Okay. So we had just done the Christmas video, Christmas Star.
Not yet.
Well, we did that first.
Yeah.
We did that before March. The first part of it we did.
Because what I came in, my first job was we were doing Barney Camp. We were auditioning kids for the new season.
Okay.
And subsequently the video Christmas Star. And
we had done we had already done the first part.
Oh, had you? Because my very first day of filming on Barney, I'll never forget, because it was 9/11.
Yeah.
And we were filming the Christmas video at Las Colinas.
Okay, so you were part of that. Yeah, we hadn't gone to Marsh yet.
So we were at Marsh because that's where we held the auditions for the kids.
Okay.
And we had Barney Camp, which I stood in for you as Barney when we were doing stuff on set.
Is there video of that? I'd like to see that.
I'd
like to see that.
I don't know. Well, when after all of that, when we really started choreographing for it and everything, I went and tried on the Barney suit.
Okay.
I was going to be teaching you guys movement, and I felt like it was so important for me to understand your restrictions, what you could see, what you could do. And it's very difficult. I'd never been in a costume before. Your vision is very limited. I also had the feet on of you and of it was important for me to do the little dinos too. I needed to feel what that was like, and it's kind of like dancing in scuba flippers. So I wanted to be able to keep that in mind while I was giving you movement, because I could do a wonderful dance, but if you can't do it, it's pointless. And I really think that anybody can dance. So it's just what you give them and the time that you give them, and it's up to the choreographer to make somebody look good. And if you don't know their limitations or their capabilities or whatever, then you're not doing your job. So I feel
that's fascinating, because I don't think I knew that you did that. For us, we all believe that there isn't anything we didn't see it as limitations, right? We didn't see it as those things as the performers, because we had, I'd been doing it for 10 years at that point. So I had learned all those things. And the most incredible thing to me, obviously, I toured with Kyle Nelson, who played BJ at that time. And I knew Jeff really well. I had worked with Jeff, and little people don't see that either. I mean, I would laugh if I ever tried to slow down or do anything for them, they'd be pissed off. They never saw anything like that, which just so much love and kudos to them. And I know you can talk about this, but I think it's so cool that you did that to get to understand what we were going through.
Well, you all amazed me every time we were on set, what you could do in those costumes. Like I said, knowing after putting them on, and none of you had limitations. I don't want that word to to sound like that, because you pushed yourself to the limit, and the things that you were able to do were so impressive. I mean, there wasn't anything Kyle was going to let stop him. That's for sure. I mean, buzzing around the set on scooters, on rollerblades, on whatever. He was ready for anything and up for the challenge. And Jeff Ayers, Baby Bop, was
He's a mess. He's trouble.
okay, but it's Baby Bop.
I know.
And there have also been females in Baby Bop, but there was nobody as Baby Bop as Jeff was Baby Bop.
It's so funny, and I agree with you 1,000%. It's so interesting. You mentioned how tall I'm. 6'1", and these guys are under 5 foot, and so there's obviously a stride issue there. And the fact that they could keep up with me was pretty impressive. Jeff Ayers, we've talked about this. He was a mascot, and there's just something. I don't even know how he channels into that and just becomes this little girl. It's the craziest thing you've ever seen. It's so sweet. He's got such a heart. It's what I love about the Barney people is just the authenticity and how much they care. And obviously you did about us, which means the world. But I think that's where some of that stuff comes out, how he became Baby Bop, just from that heart that he has.
Yeah. So I always tell people it's the best job I've ever had in my lifetime. And it's funny that we talked about the little reunion that we had not very long ago, because that was definitely the comment of the day. And there are tons of people that have gone on to do big things and wonderful things, but it just seems that it's not quite the same experience as we all had at Barney. And I think it does come back to that whole family aspect and how much we cared about what we were doing. Not that other people don't care about what they're doing, but it's okay. So even when I wasn't part of the show afterwards, or while we were in a hiatus, or when Barney was over, I could be in like a Walmart or a Target or whatever, and I'd hear a mom and a child like in a shopping cart on the next aisle singing "I Love You," and it would just stop me in my tracks and just put the biggest smile on my face, because that's what we were doing. Like, as a mom too, it's a connection that you have with your child. It is a world that you can share with them, and that you're glad that they're in, with so much stuff that's going on right now. I mean, it was a safe space for sure. So, and on the flip side of that, there are people who said that Barney was annoying. And, I would always say, oh, because Elmo's not annoying. I mean, I think to a lot of adults, almost any kid show, there's something that's annoying about it. Caillou or Teletubbies or whatever, because it's not made for the adults, right? It's made for the kids, and they love it. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was telling my wife when we came back from the Barney reunion, I said, I think I figured this out. The reason, if you look at everyone that was there, or everyone that we connect with through whatever emails, or just the Barney family, I can't look at anyone and not say they didn't work hard and do their best and care the same, right? You may not that I don't like anyone, but when you look at them, you have respect. Whether you were cleaning the floor, or you were a teacher or a producer, or it really doesn't matter the position. Every person I looked at cared about their job, cared about what they were doing, cared about each other, worked hard. I never heard, we'd be there early in the morning to get ready in the suits and all that stuff. I never heard people complain. I never heard people complain about long hours. I never heard people complain, because they knew what they were doing. They were making a difference in this world, and they were making a difference in children's lives. I was 23 when I got started into this, and I was looking for a job.
Right.
And I did it for, 6 months when I got asked to do my first hospital. I'm 23. And I walk in and I see the reaction this purple dinosaur has with these kids. And of course, it changed my life. And it just going and going and going. And I know you were on the set. You saw Make-A-Wish kids. You saw all of this, you saw the reaction that the kids had before they realized that there were performers in there. And obviously all the extras, we never told the extras that there was costumes. And so that stuff is just, it's incredible. And, to your other point, yeah, I think people don't understand it. And that's where you get to the, we say hate. It was never hate. It was just, you don't understand it. If you
Right. I said it in a way, but
right.
I think hate is a strong word.
Right. I do too. But you hear, the I love you song 1,000 times. I can understand what you're saying to a point. But how many people, especially doing this, that I get messages saying, oh my God, like I get it now. I love it. I love what it's doing. I love how important it is. And, we saw it. We were lucky enough to see it. But I think even people are seeing it today, which is just so cool.
Yes.
So I got to go to you. You mentioned the audition and the kids' audition. Of course, light bulbs went off because there was 2 young ladies that now the whole world knows who they are.
Yes.
But you were part of the whole Selena and Demi, and of course all these other kids. And it's so important to me. They have turned into superstars. Everything shows me they're still the sweet kids that I saw in those early days. But all those other kids were unbelievable. Catherine and Grayson and all of them. What was it like finding all these amazing kids?
So I had worked with children in theater before. So I knew that what they could do and what could be expected of them.
But those auditions were big, as I recall. Like lot of kids showed up.
Well, they were huge because what we were doing, we're finding new kids for the series. So this was, this was a big, we whittled down a lot of people and did what we call a Barney camp with a much bigger than what we were going to cast. But you kind of needed to see how are they going to be on set? Were they going to be able to be in the moment for, the 3 hours, or if you cut this, or are they going to be distracted, or, it's not meant for everything. And the way the shows run are different. On a movie, you may be able to just film this one little scene and you have all the time in the world to get that one little scene, and then the child's done and he's not come back till the next day or whatever. That's not what Barney is. We didn't have the luxury of that much time. And so we kind of put them through what a mini episode would be like, with a rehearsal. They had to learn songs and they had to learn choreography and they had to put it together at the end of the week. And, kind of like a whole little rundown of what that would be. And also the producers were looking for chemistry with other kids.
Right.
Together, separate, they put them into different groups. And like I said, I would stand in for Barney when we were doing it, because I did the choreography, or Shelly did the choreography, and then she would watch, but I would stand in with them and be Barney. But it was an incredible experience because I got to experience it from the get-go.
Right.
All of the kids. And then even some of the kids, a lot of the kids that maybe didn't make it into those first couple of rounds or whatever that we ended up using as series regular, they brought them back to be extras or featured players or other things. They had them involved. It wasn't just like, you're out. Right. So I thought, what an incredible gift that is. And whenever I was on it, I started as an assistant to Shelly. So I assisted her with the choreography, but then I was also with the extras on set. I did the blocking for the extras. And so we had children extras and with a few adults, but and you talked about, we protected the magic of Barney, which to me was incredible. And you're right. Some, to see the kids, because like I said, I was with the extras, and, after a while, our kids, they know they know the show, but to experience that magic every time from the extras that would come on the set, and then there's Barney or Baby Bop, and sometimes it would take them, we'd have to do a rehearsal to make sure that they're not just like, staring at
Right.
Barney or Baby
Sure.
Bop or whatever. And sometimes it wouldn't matter because if you came close to them, it wouldn't matter. It's the fourth time and they're still like, it's Barney, So it was an incredible experience.
Well, yeah, it's, it was such a different character in, he's very active with all the jumping and the spinning and all of those things. And then large. So it's Big Bird, except he's jumping and moving and very, very, very physical, which I know for kids, they're like, well, what in the world is going on here? And then here comes BJ, who's running around in scooters and all that. And then Baby Bop, it's her cute little self. So yeah, I can just imagine for extras, they're like, wow. And it's the cool thing, right? Because, if you watch a cartoon or you watch some of these kids shows, when you see him in person, it's not the real thing. But when you saw Barney on the TV show and you saw him live, it's the same thing, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the most thing that was commented on was how big you were, because I think that didn't translate as well from watching it, and as does, I think, when you see any celebrity or whatever, they're slightly different in person. But for
Right.
Barney, it was like it was like, oh my gosh, this gigantic thing that was just this big on my TV. And it's like, and I remember sometimes, I don't know if you did or not, but an extra would just, like, the first time we got out, would break loose and come out and just hug you. And so you started doing like a meet and greet with the extras before we started the thing, so that they could, because some of them were just so enamored and they just couldn't help themselves but to come up. And as I said, you sort of had some blocked visual, so you really needed to know when someone was coming up to you if they were very small.
Right.
Right.
Right. Well, you got to the point where, I kind of memorize a room and all those things because you understand that. And if you lose track of someone, you just don't make much movement.
Right.
Until you find out where they are, because it's the coolest thing that, for them, it's their friend, the person that their friend from TV is right there. And so the reactions of kids are just priceless. So I'm just curious about this because you're having to do choreography for kids, performers. I mean, there's a lot going on here. What challenges were there in helping and creating, and and then you got to keep an eye on the extras as well, right? Are they doing the blocking? It's a lot going on. What challenges do you have with all of that?
It's funny that you call it challenges, because I never really saw it as a challenge. I ate it up. I couldn't wait to learn something new. Really enjoyed. I know that other people have talked about it, where you have a quad split, and
Right.
then you have, where you can see the master, that the shots are taken. But so when I was assisting and when I was the extras, I would have to I would watch all the cameras and see what was happening in the master to see if my extras were being seen or whatever. And once I became a choreographer full time, or what Barney called a performance director, because not only did we do the choreography, we did the blocking for the show, where we were go-betweens between the director and the talent, or what have you. We set and we watched it, and then I would write down in my book, well, maybe I thought the take 2 on camera 3 was better than what we showed, and then we actually would go into the first edit, and then they show what they put together. And I'd be watching for my stuff, as everybody, producers are watching for something else, and I'd say, oh, but I really think take 3 is better on this, can you just see what you think? And they might take that, or they may go, no, I really liked the performance of this other person better, or the location, or whatever. So I learned a lot. I was responsible for a lot, and it's different than theater, but not different from theater.
Right.
So it definitely helped my directing skills.
Well, don't you think it's different in the fact that, you've got all these takes, right? The theater, once it goes, it goes. For us, we're stopping and starting, and obviously we're dealing with kids. We've talked about this, Jeff and Kyle and myself have talked about this, because was rare we just knew we had to nail it every time. That doesn't mean we did, but that was our mindset, because the last thing you want is, the kids get it perfect and it's Carey's fault that we mess that up. So, it's fascinating that you say that, because I can just imagine they're looking at camera movements and how was the smoothness. And so everyone's probably fighting for their part, right?
Right. Well, you've talked a little bit about before the kids on set, and I think I saw the Bouvet one where he talked about that he would, and I remember the cameraman, I think Harold was another one, who they let the kids see, and that's really important. It's kind of goes back to me putting on the costumes, letting the kids see what the camera sees makes a difference in their mind too. They go, oh, I understand what you're seeing. That changes what I'm doing or what I think I may be doing or whatever. And in between takes, especially when I was an assistant, if we didn't have extras out, I would go out to the kids and we would play games, little stupid games to keep them entertained while other things were going on or whatever, so they didn't get too restless. I mean, it was like, I'm going on a camping trip. My name's Christine, I'm going on a camping trip and I'm bringing cookies, did you want to come camping with me? And then they had to figure out what they could bring, what coincided. And so we had all kinds of little games that we would play, while we were waiting to, especially I know that lighting can sometimes take a long time to get it, or so just keeping them just energy kind of up and entertained, and then ready to go out, because at the end of the day, they're still kids. Right. They're not adults, they're still kids. But what I loved about the Barney set is that we still allowed them to be kids, right? Just because they were doing an adult job, they weren't adults. We still let them be children. And I think that was a gift to them, because I don't think even Selena and Demi, when the higher they got to have that later on.
Right. So. Well, and also onto that point, which I think is, yes, kids messed up, right? We had to do more takes. They're a kid, right? I think that was everyone's attitude. I never saw anyone get mad or, oh my gosh, I can't believe we got to do this again or whatever. I mean, kids would walk off. I always remember one walking off because he cut his finger. Right. Get back on, right? But you knew that, right? They're sweet kids. And I love that point, because everyone was treating them that way. Right.
Well, I remember, I think the character's name was Scott, or his name was Scott. He's a blonde boy.
Yes.
And that we get a countdown before we start, and literally it'd be like 5, 4, and he's like, and as soon as they'd get to 1, he'd be like, and ready to go. And it was like the most amazing thing. You're just like, he's okay, here we go. And he'd just go right into the thing. But that was his thing. He was like getting his jitters out, because he was one of those kids. He was like, and going all the time, but literally he was like, choo choo choo, and then I'm ready to go. So it's an incredible thing to see. Well,
another part I'm curious about it is you come in, some of these songs were choreographed, right? From Miss Penny. We've talked about Miss Penny on this show. Some of these were, Mr. Knickerbocker and Raindrops. A lot of those.
Airplane too, or an elephant.
Right.
So yeah, there were some that were like,
which I want to do songs. Right now. I'm about to drop into choreography, but so that had to have been interesting too, where you come in and some of these songs are known. And I know we freshened up some stuff. And then I also know we had these completely new songs that you have to, I think one of the huge success with the choreography is that it included the audience, right? The kids could go along and do, Raindrops and Knickerbocker.
So what you're saying is Barney was TikTok before there was TikTok.
That's right. That's right. I feel like I got to do something. That's exactly it. Someone owes someone a royalty, I think.
Right.
There's a check that TikTok owes to Barney. But yeah, absolutely. So how did that go for you? Especially, let's say you got a new song, right? You got a new song. Are you thinking about how do we do this where it can be interactive, where the audience can do it at home and keep it simple, right? Because our audience is young.
Right. Well, and I think that it it's was helpful that we had young children. I mean, um, I'm trying to think because not everybody was like 7 or 8. I remember, I want to say maybe it was Cameron Tenaple, Lexi's sister, who was on a couple of episodes, and she was like 5 or 6. So it's not as if we were dealing with 8 or 9 year olds the whole time. I mean,
Right. It was
we had
everything.
littles too, and so I think that was very helpful to us because. I mean, you have to teach it to them and they have to get it.
Right.
So if they,
And
you
in
know,
a
it's
very short period of time.
yes, very short period of time. We did have rehearsals and we were all thankful for rehearsals. But you know, there are things that changed. As you know, sometimes I would have to re-choreograph something on the fly because maybe the director was like, you know what, I really want to put it over here. I want to shoot it this way. Can we do something different? Or maybe education um, would say, you know, we really want to model something differently here. So you had to be adaptable anyway, and I think that's where the theater was helpful because you are nothing but adaptable in theater because anything can happen. As you've said before, it's live. So you know, even if it's happening day of in the thing, let's say you're supposed to do something with a partner and your partner trips or something, you can't just be like, you know,
Right.
you have to go on with it. So I think that having that background is helpful. And like I said, I had worked with kids, and I think just being able to have fun yourself is important. But I think also the movements had to be somewhat interesting for you and the little dinos too, because good Lord, you had to do them all the time, right? So it was a lot, but it was fun and something new all the time, and I relished in it. I relished in finding things that we could all do that looked cute, that were fun. And sometimes I took inspiration from theater shows. I remember we had a song in the library in the caboose, and I did a little homage to Music Man, Mary and the Librarian. And, you know, sometimes I could throw some little things in there like that. So it's all fun. We did a hip hop. We did hip hop on Barney. I mean, that was an incredible time because we had one of the older kids from beforehand came back to visit, and she happened to be in a hip hop troupe. And so we just got to experience a whole bunch of stuff that was super fun. I hope it was fun for you anyway.
Oh, it was. No, it was. It's just funny. I'm shaking my head because you talk about hip hop. That is obviously not my that is not my specialty. But that's where the challenge would come in for me. We've had kids on this show talk about this before, that the choreographer is really good about being able to tell who had the dance moves, and maybe you give a solo to someone compared to
Right.
someone that you make easier. How was that? I mean, that whole process.
Yeah. But I think it's part of the job, but I also think it's fun to see what you can bring out in different kids too. Just because you know somebody is maybe a better dancer, sure, you give them a little something here, but then you're going to celebrate this other one doing something different. And I think that was the magic of Barney. I feel like that we tried to highlight everybody's talent in some way or another. And even when we did the I Love You song, we would all keep it in our mind. Well, so and so got the special hug last time, so let's make sure we feature this one here, or this one's going to do a high five, or you know, we try to create a special moment for every kid, and that even made it better. It's like, oh, I get to do this for so and so, or oh, I can't wait to see Emilio do this. Um, so I yeah, I think back of it, and all I do is smile. I smile at what we created, at what we got to accomplish, at at everything we did. It was amazing.
You just touched on one of my favorite things, because I talk about this a lot, is Barney was all the things today we're talking about. Barney was all those things, you know, making sure that every kid got this, and diverse and all those things. but it's not because we were told that way,
Um,
right? As you just absolutely said, you want to make sure every kid got that moment. And that's what I love. That's what it's like all this stuff going on today. We set that example a long time ago, just caring about people. And that's why we are such a Barney family, is you wanted everyone to have that. And what I'm talking about, some could dance and this and that. Usually, if they weren't as good a dancer, they were usually a better singer or a better this, and they got their spotlight. Everyone got their spotlight, and whatever that may be. So I love that.
Yeah. So going back to Selena and Demi, I remember fairly early on, Selena was had gone to a couple of callbacks for Enough with Jennifer Lopez to be her daughter in that, and she didn't get that. But she never showed it. Like, I wouldn't have known. I mean, this was like hubbub or whatever. And then we were there. She was still part of the cast when she was cast in Spy Kids 3, and we all celebrated that. And but every kid had their thing. And I remember Zachary, who played Mario, super smart kid, but then he got to represent that on Barney. Right. And Michaela, who was very quiet, who played Cammy, but she also got to represent that. Like, not every kid was this, I'm going to sing and dance and woo, this is me. Because they got to be different characters, and not to say that every character was what they were in real life, because that's not true either. No actor is exactly who they are on film. They're slightly different, but and to see what a lot of them have done. I mean, Selena and Demi aren't the only ones who went on to do great things. Emilio was actually in production. I know he works on Lego Masters and a couple of other things. He loves it. And I don't know if you remember, he used to make Lego movies all the time. The Lego movie of Fred, the director, which was incredible. I still have that somewhere. So he was thinking about being a director when he was on the show. And Jaron, who was a kid later on, I believe he is on Never Have I Ever, I think is the show that he's on. But several of our kids, not just Selena and Demi, who get talked about it the most, have gone on to do great things or work behind the scenes. And then there are several of them who are married and have children, which make me feel really old.
Yes, I've had a few of them on this show. Michaela is one of them that we had on this show, who just had a baby, and just as sweet as always. And we had Catherine on, who I just loved her to death. And it was one of my favorite things about that interview is that she said, I just wanted to be a kid. Like, my favorite part about Barney is that I got to play, I got to wear the costumes. She loved when we did the takeoff on Alice in Wonderland.
I love that. Yes, that was a great
video. And kids loved all of that. It was playtime for them, which how cool is it that you can do that, right? You have them working, but they can still have fun and be kids.
Yes.
Yeah, that video was crazy. That was fun.
I know that you've talked about it multiple times on the show too, but I was also part of the Mother Nature video in which we had animals and jungles and you've talked about it all the time. And I do remember the elephant on the set, who can't, but there was also penguins. We had penguins. I mean, we had all kinds of things that were, you're like, I can't believe this is what I do for a living. Right.
I can remember horses and all kinds of stuff.
Well, yeah. And we go to locations when we shot the big fair/carnival video or whatever. Firehouse videos, barns. I mean,
the memories. I'm starting to get hot thinking about that. Thinking about that, and I always think too. Well, I passed it not too long ago. The farm video.
Right.
We were out in Mesquite, Texas. I passed that. I remember marching after ducks and all kinds of crazy things.
Yes, it was just incredible.
So what was that like for you? Let's talk about that for a second. Being on location. Now you got a whole other thing, right? You're out wherever it may be. firehouses and farms and carnivals and all that stuff. That's a new challenge.
It is a new challenge. And like you said, they're kids and animals. So like everything could go wrong, but you've said it earlier too, you never really saw anybody lose control or get angry about any situation. You know, that's another thing that made that job so incredible. Like we were all just there to make it happen, and whatever we could do to make it happen. But the kids, they had long hours, but you would never guess that at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And they were given breaks and they had to do school and whatever, but it was, again, like what you were saying. I mean, they got to go to a farm and play with ducks and donkeys and whatever, you know. I mean, it was, you know, like a petting zoo all day long, like how hard, you know. So it was, you know, incredible. My challenge was when we did the fair / carnival, whatever big video that was. So at that point we had a couple of different choreographers, and so that wasn't my main show. What I was in charge of the extras again for that, but we had somewhere between 300 and 500 extras or whatever. So that was a big experience for me, learning how to block and control that many people in a very small amount of time. We did not have a week of rehearsal with the extras. You get the extras that day and then you're doing it. Like there's no, okay, we're going to plan this out for no, you have to figure out what you're doing and then you're going to shoot that in like an hour. So that was very interesting. But what's so funny is I learned how to do that before I was ever on Barney and Friends. When I was younger, I had a family that lived in California and I was out visiting them, and my aunt and I decided to go do this cast and cattle call thing, and we ended up being extras in Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
That's awesome.
And at the Festival of Unity, or the Unity Festival or whatever, and how that person directed mass quantities of people. I remembered that. And you would make them in groups, group 1, group 2, group 3, you know, and it'd be, you know, and they'd call out, okay, because he would tell the groups what they were going to do. It's like group 2, group 3, group 1, you know, and he would give them like an ABC movement or whatever. So I learned that from actually being on the Spider-Man set. Don't worry, you're gonna go get it, and you'll try to pause. I never got to see myself either, but I remember the Green Goblin, and I was right here. And at this one, I thought I was gonna really be on it because I was totally right behind the Green Goblin when he was talking to Spider-Man, but then they switched to the wrong point of view. Anyway, but
but that's glad that you said that, because, but they're all important, right? Whether you make you have an effect on the whole, even if you're not on camera, right? It's still such an important thing. And boy, I was an extra in when they rebooted Dallas. I was an extra on that. I got a call having to walk by JR, which was fun. But it's, you know, you're freezing and all kinds of stuff. They told me to wear long johns and make it look like summer, and I'm freezing my tail off. Right. So yeah, that's fun. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if I knew that Spider-Man story. I may have known that, but maybe. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I was thankful for the experience. So you just never know what you're going to learn and remember, and then be able to use later on. I learned a lot of things on Barney because later on in the run, I talked about how we had different choreographers. So what we would have was, you worked every week, but we would have a choreographer, a director, and a producer in a team. And so one week you'd be planning, and the next week you'd be shooting, and one week you'd be off if we happen to be in a three person thing at that point. And then also Barney would go on hiatus or whatever, but the studio wouldn't shut down, and HIT owned other properties. And so I did production coordinating on Bob the Builder. I even did hair and makeup on Bob the Builder, but let's face it, hair and makeup on 5-year-olds is not that hard. I am by no means a hair and makeup person. They do amazing stuff. I had just powdered or brushed hair, but I did talent coordinating. I had to work with agencies on getting extras and different things. I was assistant to the producers. I worked art department for a very small period. I did transcribing, which I believe is what they use for closed caption. And so I would watch the episodes or a video, and because not everybody stuck to the script. And I'm not just talking about the kids, Julie, Patty, Dean. Not everybody stuck to the script. So we would have to write what they actually said, which is also what a script supervisor does. But the script supervisor has so much. I mean, they can't catch every single little one. But yeah,
I feel
so
like
I
we
learned
need
a
to
lot of
start
things.
this episode again because I didn't get the title really. Jack of all trades, Christine Lanning, I think is really, really how I should have described you.
Well, a lot of people maybe don't know that when you work in production, if you're not filming or doing meetings and stuff, then you don't get paid.
Right.
And so you tend to make yourself useful. And actually the job that I was hired for, performance director, doesn't really exist in film and television, but it's because of how Barney started very small, and Miss
Right.
Penny came from the theater world, and that's just the title that they gave that. And so me being able to learn those other things helped me have a career in television and film. Like go on and do it. Like I couldn't just go on to another TV series and say I'm a performance director, because they'd be like, I don't know what that is. And definitely not every TV series needs a choreographer.
Right.
So it was amazing, because once Barney started shutting down, I moved back to Oklahoma because my husband got a promotion, and I tried for a year to stay in Texas, but he only got to see, at that time, the boys were fairly small, like 1 week out of a month. And so it just wasn't working. So I did freelance in Oklahoma. I did, commercials. I worked with Kevin Durant. I used those skills to do other things in Oklahoma. But I really scaled back because my boys were small, and I wanted to be able to be there for them and go to their Valentine's parties or whatever. And now I'm starting to get back into it. I do independent film and in front of the camera, some behind the camera. So
What's your current show? Because I know there's got to be one.
well, right now I'm doing a small theater show that is just going to be over Halloween weekend. And then I have a small independent feature film that we should be going into in November, but it could possibly be January, as anybody in film knows that. Right. It's kind of a timeline on when that actually happens. But there's several up and comer directors here that are doing some great things. I did some stuff that award-winning stuff that appeared at Dead Center, which is a big film festival here that goes on, that is now an Academy Award festival. And then I don't know if you know, but Oklahoma just finished Tulsa King, which is the Sylvester Stallone television series that will be out next year. That's written by Tyler Sheridan, who does Yellowstone in 1883 and all.
I'm a Texan. I don't follow all that stuff in Oklahoma. Just kidding.
I know.
I am a Texan.
But you're not a Texan to heart, because you like the Vikings.
I do like the Vikings. That is true, but I am a Texan to heart. Don't even start that stuff. Yeah, I've been up to Oklahoma. It's a pretty state. And I love Tyler Sheridan, and he's a Texan too. So yes. He just bought the big ranch in Texas. So he loves it too. But I love that. I hope that
after my youngest son graduates, we'll probably move back to Texas, because
well, they all come back.
Tons of friends there. Yeah.
Well, come back. I know. I tell my wife, well, it's my wife's from Michigan, and she's just like, you in Texas, it kills me. Like, well, this is where we are.
Well, not only does it have a thriving film community, it also has a huge theater community. I mean, every city around there has a theater, plus there are multiple theaters, there are multiple professional theaters. It's incredible the opportunities you have there.
And well, the talent in Texas in the theater community is pretty impressive and what they're doing. But once again, I love Oklahoma. Don't write me any notes. I love
You're good.
Oklahoma, but I am a
You're
Texan.
I will tell you, I am not a Sooner fan, so
There you go. There you go. Yeah, you see, always I'm representing each week. This is the Fort Worth Library because my lovely wife works there, and this is the coolest thing. Amplify 817, as I'm giving my shout out. It's all about the local musicians in Fort Worth. You can actually get, it's like Spotify for Fort Worth. So
that's amazing.
All you need is a library card, and you get to listen to all these artists, and the artists get paid. So it's a very cool.
That's incredible. What an incredible opportunity that is. And because definitely an amazing music scene there too in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
It's very, and it's every type of artist, which is really cool. I can't even tell you. I could talk to you. We could have part 2, part 3, part 4 of Purple Rose with Christine Lanning. Well, I can't thank you enough for being here, and I'll start getting ready to book part 2 of Purple Rose with Christine Lanning.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I would be happy to do a number 2 because I'm sure there's like so many things we didn't talk about, which is kind of crazy.
I know. You can't take it all in 1 hour, but I just can't thank you enough.
Okay.
And thank you for watching Purple Roads. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and heart open, and you'll find your purple road. We'll see you real soon.